The army announced that it launched extensive simultaneous strikes against targets in both Tehran and Beirut. In the Iranian capital, the IDF says it's striking the infrastructure of the terror regime, while in Beirut, it's attacking Hezbollah targets. Starting with the north, where amid heavy incoming rocket and mortar fire on northern Israel, the IDF is intensifying its air and ground operations in Lebanon. ILTV's Devil Klein has the latest.
The IDF is continuing to target Hezbollah positions across the south and deeper into Lebanon, including several neighborhoods in Beirut. IDF ground forces are also maneuvering and advancing deeper into southern Lebanon. The army says it's hitting rocket launchers, command centers, and weapon sites as ground forces expand operations along the border. The escalation comes as Hezbollah continues and intensifies its rocket and drone attacks on northern Israeli communities. IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir visited the Northern Command, approving plans for the next phase and saying strikes on Iran are impacting Hezbollah's capabilities in Lebanon. Zamir confirmed a targeted ground operation in southern Lebanon with more than 400 Hezbollah operatives killed and troops continuing raids on weapon sites. Israel says operations will continue until its northern communities are safe and secure. Defense Minister Israel Katz explained the operation.
צה"ל החל בתמרון קרקעי בלבנון כדי להסיר איומים ולהגן על תושבי הגליל והצפון. מאות אלפי תושבי דרום לבנון השיעים שהתפנו ומתפנים מבתיהם בדרום לבנון לביירות לא יחזרו לבתיהם דרומית למרחב הליטני עד שלא יובטח שלומם של תושבי הצפון.
Katz compared the ongoing operation in Lebanon to IDF maneuvers during the war in Gaza.
ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו ואני הנחינו את צה"ל לפעול ולהרוס את תשתיות הטרור בכפרי המג"ס סמוכי הגבול בלבנון כדי למנוע איומים ואת חזרת החיזבאללה למקום בדיוק כפי שהדבר נעשה מול החמאס בעזה באזורי רפיח, בית חנון ושטחים נרחבים שסוכלו וכפי שנעשה כיום מול מנהרות הטרור בעזה.
Two fronts, a multi-front war, and no sign the fighting is about to ease in either.
Turning to Iran, where overnight an IDF strike killed besieged paramilitary force commander Gholamreza Soleimani, Defense Minister Israel Katz says top Iranian official and Secretary of the National Security Council Ali Larijani was also targeted and killed. Earlier waves of Air Force attacks destroyed both the Iranian Navy Command Center as well as the Center for the Development of Satellite Attack Capabilities. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
The overnight strike killed the notorious Basij paramilitary force commander Gholamreza Soleimani and targeted other top figures in the Basij, which is known for violently suppressing anti-regime protests. The IDF confirms it also struck top Iranian official Ali Larijani in Tehran, but results are still being verified. Simultaneously, the military targeted top Palestinian Islamic Jihad leader Akram al-Ajuri and other senior figures with confirmation of casualties pending. On day 18 of the war with Iran, the IDF attacked and destroyed both the Iranian Naval Command Center as well as the Center for the Development of Satellite Attack Capabilities. The Army spokesman detailed specific strikes in Iran, illustrating the airstrike that hit Iran's Navy headquarters.
הטייסים והטייסות שלנו תוקפים ברחבי איראן כל הזמן. ביממה האחרונה פגענו במפקדת חיל הים של משמרות המהפכה. המשטר האיראני השתמש במפקדה הזו כדי להפוך את הזירה הימית לזירת טרור.
The IDF also confirmed the Israeli Air Force strike on the key Iranian Space Agency research site used to develop capabilities to attack satellites.
בתקיפה נוספת בלב טהרן פגענו והשמדנו מרכז לפיתוח יכולות תקיפת לוויינים. מרכז שהיווה איום על נכסי החלל והלוויינות של ישראל ושל כל העולם. במקביל אנחנו ממשיכים לתקוף את כוחות הבסיג', כוחות הדיכוי האיראנים.
Israel says its airstrikes across Iran target military and terror leaders, sending a clear warning that the campaign will continue until the threat is neutralized.
U.S. President Donald Trump says some countries are eager to join a U.S.-led effort to secure shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, while others are holding back. Leading European allies are rejecting Washington's calls, while leading Gulf states are reportedly urging the U.S. to continue the war after repeated attacks by the Islamic Republic.
Several key Gulf states are reportedly increasing pressure on the United States to take decisive action against the Islamic Republic as tensions escalate across the region and the Strait of Hormuz crisis deepens. According to sources, Arab governments are urging Washington not to leave the Islamic Republic with the ability to threaten key oil routes and regional economies. The shift comes after suspected Iranian strikes, including an attack near Dubai International Airport. Speaking at the White House, President Trump said several nations have indicated they are prepared to take part in the initiative aimed at protecting commercial vessels in the strategic waterway. But he acknowledged that some traditional allies are showing less enthusiasm, even though they rely heavily on the route for energy supplies.
We strongly encourage other nations whose economies depend on the Strait far more than ours. You know, we get less than 1% of our oil from the Strait, and some countries get much more. Japan gets 95%. China gets 90%. Many of the Europeans get quite a bit. South Korea gets 35%. So we want them to come and help us with the Strait.
Trump says Iranian officials have been signaling interest in a diplomatic deal with Washington, but he says it remains unclear whether Tehran is ready for negotiations.
Iran has always used that as an economic weapon, and it's not going to be able to be used very long. Numerous countries have told me they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it, and some aren't. Some are countries that we've helped for many, many years. We've protected them from horrible outside sources, and they weren't that enthusiastic. And the level of enthusiasm matters to me.
The European Union says it has no plans for now to expand its naval mission to the Strait of Hormuz, despite rising tensions. German President Merz gave an emphatic no.
Wie die Vereinigten Staaten und Israel wollen wir ein Ende des iranischen Nuklear- und Raketenprogramms. Aber wir beteiligen uns nicht an diesem Krieg. Das haben wir vom ersten Tag an gesagt. Das bleibt dabei für die Bundesregierung. Das heißt aber auch, solange der Krieg andauert, werden wir uns daran nicht beteiligen, in der Straße von Hormuz mit militärischen Mitteln eine freie Schifffahrt zu gewährleisten.
Several missile salvos from the Islamic Republic were launched at Israel today, one of them hitting a train station in Holon in central Israel. Our correspondent Alec Pollard is there now with more updates. Alec, what can you tell us?
Right, Emily. So as you mentioned, there have been 3 salvos already into central Israel in the morning and the afternoon. One of them was over here at the Holon Juncture train station. This was one of those cluster munitions that scored a direct hit here at the station. You can even see some of the damage behind me here in the background. Right over there, you can see it. And that was the damage that was done, which is why this station has been shut down now. So it's not in operation. I also had the chance to go inside. They're not letting people inside, but since I arrived here, there has been another salvo, and they have a safe space in there. So I asked to go inside and saw what the condition is. Station is in relatively good condition. You can see some massive water leaks. So obviously they hit some of the piping over there, which is something that happened. So that's like some of the damage that we're seeing here from the station, and also some other light damage in other areas across central Israel. No serious injuries from this barrage in particular. And of course, there was also the strikes that happened yesterday, where there were 2 homes, one in Rishon LeZion, one in Shoam, again, both relatively in central Israel, that suffered some damage from these salvos. So the Iranian missiles are continuing to hit using those cluster munitions, which are aimed at civilians to cause as much damage to civilians, right? This is not the type of bomb you use to hit a military target, for example, to try to strike a building or to try to blow something up. It's intended to have that shrapnel effect to try to harm as many civilians as possible. Luckily, in this case, there were no casualties from the strike, but it did cause some damage, not too significant, but some damage to the station here, which is out of operation in the moment.
All right, well, thank you for that update. We'll continue to keep you all updated on what's going on the ground, but our correspondent, Alec Pollard, thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
One of the busiest fronts of the war against the Islamic Republic is the disinformation war that the entire world is a part of, whether you realize it or not. The Islamic Republic has been very active in spreading false narratives across media and social media, including a host of conspiracies, including that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had died last week. Well, joining us now to discuss these trends is national security expert and former U.S. military Travis Hawley. Travis, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast today. Pleasure to have you. What are the types of messages that we're seeing so far being artificially amplified or otherwise promoted on social media related to this war?
Thanks for having me, Emily. Yes, so what people need to understand is that the information environment is actually the real front of the war in many ways. And what we're seeing is an attempt by the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proxies and its mercenaries in South Asia to try to demoralize the West and put political pressure by way of changing the perception of the war using social media disinformation. The type of content we're seeing is a lot of recycled content from the previous conflict or wars, you may say, between the Islamic Republic and Israel, such as footage from 2024 or footage from 2025, where the missile salvos were much greater than they are now in terms of volume. But also you mentioned this Bibi is dead, Bibi has been killed, being Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been killed. Rumor is being spread primarily by the Islamic Republic's semi-official propaganda wings such as Tasmin News, and then through useful idiots just to be direct throughout social media.
Now, how do we know that the Islamic Republic is actually behind many of these campaigns? How would we know if other state actors are involved?
So, interestingly enough, when it comes to information operations, this information warfare domain, it can be difficult to attribute which actors and locations are responsible or the origins, but we do have some tactics to at least give us a high degree of confidence. So here's one piece. One is to find the first reporting of such news. Now, that doesn't mean that that is a state actor, but we can look at Tasmin News from literally a week ago, about 7 days ago. This rumor was floated through their social media on X and through one of their articles. This is a propaganda arm of the IRGC. And then from there, you can see, especially when we map it with technology, we can see the nodes start to spread across social media. That is one way, is to look at the first reporting of a rumor is at least just one piece. Another piece is to find location data. So at least with X and Instagram, there is an ability now to look at the alleged location of an account. They can VPN or proxy. There is ways to obfuscate. This isn't a perfect science either. Some other tactics we can use is analyzing the language. Sometimes these accounts switch between different types of languages as they are running different campaigns, and that can also be a red flag. Another piece could be looking at the pattern of life of these accounts, looking at which time zones they are posting in. Or, for example, if they're posting mostly during Western hours, you could see that they're targeting Western audiences, and that doesn't necessarily mean they can't spoof that either. So I'll be honest, we have 10, 15, 20 different pieces of evidence that we can put together to try to assess which actor is behind it, but it's not always certain. But a question you should always ask yourself when it comes to information operation is, who is the beneficiary of these lies?
Definitely a great question. I want to ask you, as a final question, what kind of impact has this narrative warfare had on this war as a whole, at least so far? Are people believing these rumors that are happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, many people are. I would say countless millions, and we can measure that through social media analysis tools as well, looking at the volume of posts and the volume of comments and replies believing this. Part of it is some people just don't have the level of media literacy that we need to understand how to research and how to assess content's reliability or authenticity. I don't entirely blame those people, but there are also people who are demoralized and subverted, and frankly, they want to believe the lies, whether they consciously know that or not. And the way that this impacts backs the war, as we saw even potentially last year in June with the 12-day war, is that if there is no public support or there is diminishing public support for military action, then that does, as an upstream effect, go downstream to our politicians, and it can affect policy and it can affect judgments in the actual kinetic battlefield of these wars. So we can see that when there is an onslaught of disinformation and a fog of war, excuse the pun, digitally speaking, it can affect how soon ceasefires are reached or how soon the tactics move from kinetic to diplomatic.
Great point. I think it also is applicable to the past 2 years or so since October 7th. We've seen such similar patterns in regards to Gaza. We saw with the Al-Ahli hospital, the bombing of that was hit by an Islamic Jihad rocket. Yet around the world, it was reported that it was, in fact, Israel. So the same things we're seeing in multiple wars. Definitely a tricky situation these days with the social media front. But unfortunately, we do have to end there. But I want to thank you, Travis, for joining us today and for all your insights on this important issue.
Thank you.
Well, as missiles rain down across Israel, reaching safety and managing daily life during war is far more difficult for people with disabilities. During this war, mobility challenges leave some families living almost entirely inside their bomb shelters, unable to reach food, medicine, or even essential care. For 35 years, Chimes Israel has helped children and adults with disabilities through therapy, essential care, and employment support. But because of this war, children with disabilities are losing critical therapies, and adults are losing daily structure and human contact. Even some staff members' homes have been destroyed by these attacks, yet they continue serving the people who depend on them. Chimes Israel needs your help during this war to deliver therapy, medicine, food, and essentials directly to families' homes. It also needs to build a protected shelter for vulnerable preschoolers. In times like these, we're called to stand with the most vulnerable among us. Please don't forget the children and adults with disabilities in Israel during this war. Your help can truly make a difference. Israeli officials are sharply criticizing European governments, accusing them of failing to support the campaign against the Islamic Republic and doing too little to confront the threat posed by the rogue regime as the war escalates. Let's take a look.
A sharp war of words is now emerging between Israel and Europe as the conflict with the Islamic regime continues. Senior Israeli officials are publicly accusing European governments of weakness and hypocrisy in their response to the joint Israeli and American military campaign against the Islamic Republic. According to the officials, Europe has failed to take meaningful action to confront the threat from Tehran, despite years of warning about Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missile development, and regional aggression. One Israeli official described the current moment as Europe's ugliest hour, saying European countries have not mobilized to help keep shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz open and have done little to defend Persian Gulf states from Iranian attacks. Even as the regime in Iran has expanded its nuclear and missile programs over the past decade, European governments continue to rely mostly on diplomacy. Criticism was directed particularly at Britain and France for their limited support to the United States and Israel during the current war, including Britain's refusal to allow American aircraft to launch strikes against the regime from the strategic Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. Israeli officials also warned that Europe may soon face direct consequences from the conflict. European security services are increasingly concerned about Iranian sleeper cells that could be activated to carry out attacks across the continent. So far, Israeli officials say Germany has been one of the few European countries to take strong security measures, increasing protection around Israeli embassies and Jewish institutions. These comments reflect growing frustration in Jerusalem as the war against the regime expands, and as Israel and the United States continue to press allies to take a more decisive role in confronting the regime. For now, the divide between Israel and some of its European partners appears to be widening as the conflict in the region also continues to escalate.
Turning to Gaza, where the IDF continues to hit Hamas targets amid ceasefire violations. The IDF says it has eliminated 7 Hamas terrorists in central Gaza, including 2 members of the Nukhba force who took part in the October 7th massacre. The military says the cell was identified while planning an attack on Israeli troops and was struck to remove the threat. According to the IDF, those killed include Rami Ibrahim Harb and Musab Ziad Dara, who infiltrated Israel during the October 7th attack and had been planning additional operations against IDF forces in Gaza. An additional operative was killed named Abud Mohammed Amtsi, linked to popular resistance committees. the terrorist group operating under Hamas's patronage in Gaza. Well, the IDF says the strike was part of ongoing operations to disrupt Hamas cells and prevent ongoing attacks against Israeli forces operating in the Gaza Strip. An Iranian ballistic missile fragment struck near Jerusalem's Old City, with shrapnel landing close to major holy sites. Speaking near the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a foreign minister official said the impact occurred just meters from the site, with no casualties or significant damage reported. Israeli police say fragments were also found near the Al-Aqsa compound on the Temple Mount, a site holy to both Judaism and Islam.
The Iranian regime is targeting holy sites in the Old City of Jerusalem. They are targeting Muslims, they are targeting Christians, and they are targeting Jews. And they mainly try to get as many civilian casualties as possible.
And today we once again have the pleasure of hearing from Yael Eckstein, president of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, as she brings us the latest highlights and inspiring updates from the work of the fellowship.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are 2 fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number 1. Thank God the fellowship's emergency preparedness paid off. The fellowship distributed thousands of emergency backpacks to Israel's first responders, on top of the first responder gear, including bulletproof vests and helmets so that they can work under rocket attacks. We packed emergency food boxes with vegetables and chicken and everything that an elderly would need while Israel is under attack. The preparations that the fellowship has made is saving lives right now. Number 2, we're always on the ground looking for new needs that arise that we couldn't have planned for. And we heard about Meir, an 89-year-old man who was sleeping on the floor of a public bomb shelter. We bought beds for elderly and placed them for Meir in his bomb shelter and at other bomb shelters that have lots of elderly there throughout Israel. Praise God. It's those simple things that make a very big difference. There are 2 projects that you now know about the fellowship here in Israel. Join me next week, same place, same time, for what's happening in the Holy Land. Shalom.
Amid the war with the Islamic regime, Prime Minister Netanyahu had a special message to brave Iranian patriots as they mark the Festival of Lights.
To the brave people of Iran, I wish you, as I do every year, a happy holiday season beginning with the Festival of Lights. It signifies the age-old belief of the Iranian people that light will triumph over darkness, that good will triumph over evil. This year, this holiday has special meaning. Celebrate it with your friends, your family, your loved ones. I take this opportunity to wish you a happy Nowruz, a year of freedom, a new beginning of hope to all of you, my dear friends.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 11 degrees Celsius or 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see rainy showers alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of 24 degrees Celsius or 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's it for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and keep up with us on social media. That's ILTV_Israel on all platforms. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you for watching.